If you wrote Mitchell Trubisky off for dead, you were dead wrong. Now, what if I were to tell you that this quarterback who has a QBR of 52 and a PFF grade of 61 is on the path right now to have a QBR higher than 70, maybe 75, and a PFF grade pushing up over 80? All that's possible to you, Chicago fans, if. Now, we're about to tell you some information that's going to help you in the gambling world, help you in the fantasy football world. Go up to the banner above, follow us on Twitter. You're going to see all of our picks there. If you followed us so far this year and you bet a measly $10 on every unit we played, we've paid you $150 just for following us. But if you're here for fantasy football and for information, go down below, hit subscribe, ring the bell so you can stay with us through all of this. When Mitchell Trubisky came out in the draft, I had him as my second-rated quarterback, only behind Patrick Mahomes. I have no illusions or care to salvage the fact that I had him ahead of Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback. But when you looked at Mitchell Trubisky coming out of college, you saw a quarterback with a live arm. Really good wrist action, hip turn on his throwing motion, which would open up the off-platform throws. He had the beginnings of ball placement throws, back shoulder, leading the wide receiver. And he moved in the pocket well enough because he had solid athleticism. He didn't do it in a technical way, and there were issues in that area. But all in all, he had the tools and the traits that you're looking for on the athletic side of the game. But the reason I had him too and was wrong is because I used that lovely word called assume. Because when you looked at Mitchell Trubisky pre-snap, his reads were really solid, but he was very inexperienced. You looked into his progressions, and that's where the issues arose. And I assumed that because he was a smart quarterback on his pre-snap, that more experience would clean up the progressions. And we have not seen that. Not one bit. The Mitchell Trubisky that we have seen is behind in his progressions with his eyes, is jamming the ball into bad places, and as he moves through his progressions, specifically from the right to the left, his footwork is even further behind his eyes, which leads him, when he's throwing to his left, to throw off a base that isn't balanced late, which is why people think he can't throw left. He can throw left, just only to his one read and not when he's moving through a progression. This issue has plagued him. It isn't going away. There are a lot of people who believe in quarterback development. I'm not one of them. I don't think quarterbacks develop as much as they're being given credit for. They do speed up as they adjust to the NFL, but from where they leave college to where they end up in the NFL, we're talking millimeters. The difference is not large. And in Trubisky, you've absolutely seen that as the case. If not the fact that he has gone backwards, because as he struggles through things that he should not be doing or cannot do, his confidence, his mechanics, and everything has devolved. So if you wrote him off for dead, I understand where your eyes are. But the fact of the matter is that our projections and our evaluation doesn't just talk about what a quarterback is. It talks about where a quarterback fits or how you defend that quarterback to make them fail. And in Trubisky's case, we saw something going into this year that's unfolding in front of our very eyes right now. Last year, a quarterback who was on the scrap heap, left for dead, changed from one team to the other. And the moment we saw Ryan Tannehill versus the Chargers, we threw up a flag of alert on the Tennessee Titans. Said, they're going to win a bunch of games. They are now an overs machine. And this guy fits this system beautifully. And seeing that Chargers game made that alert a little bit hindsight, because we'd already seen it play out. But it made us go back and think, wait, what other quarterbacks can move into a system similar to what we see with Tannehill and go from garbage to high-end efficiency? There's one guy who popped out of that projection and that evaluation very clearly, and his name was Mitchell Trubisky. When we did this, we dug into Tannehill deep. First year, Tannehill came out raw. Second year, you saw gains. Third year, you saw efficiency gains as well, with Zach Taylor and Bill Lazor. Then Adam Gase's team took over full reins and drove him right off a proverbial cliff until he went to Arthur Smith, who had similarities with Zach Taylor and Bill Lazor. And like that, Ryan Tannehill was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the game. And we watched Nagy wanting Trubisky to be the quarterback Nagy wanted in his offense instead of being the offensive coordinator that Mitchell Trubisky needed. And we knew it was never going to happen with Nagy unless he just completely changed what he did. And then this offseason, the strangest thing happened because Bill Lazor popped back up as the offensive coordinator in Chicago. And we sat up in our chair and said, if Trubisky can be fixed, the projections and the evaluations say that is the guy. Looking into Bill Lazor, coaching tree, you've got Gibbs, you've got Holmgren, and you've got Chip Kelly. You have the experience in Miami, you have some experience in college to play with some ideas. This is a guy who can make those simple reads, micro progression, decisive, quick passing, quick hitting offense that takes Trubisky's progressions out of the equation, that let him live on his tools, that let him live on his pre-snap. And that's where Trubisky is strong. So all offseason, even though Nick Foles showed up in Chicago, we said Mitchell Trubisky's the starter. If Bill Lazor can put his fingerprints on this offense, Mitchell Trubisky is the starter. And week one, we tuned in to see Bill Lazor's offense and Mitchell Trubisky starting to rise up the ranks. And they had a dramatic comeback versus Detroit, and a lot of people said, wow, look, Trubisky's starting to come on. And we said, hey, guys, bench him. Bench him. Because his mechanics are as bad as they've ever been. His footwork is as erratic as it's ever been. He forced the ball into bad spots. He was late on his progressions. He's still running the Nagy offense, and this isn't going to work. 2 weeks later, that came true. Mitchell Trubisky was benched. Nick Foles' era started for a short period of time. And honestly, my own eye test said, hey, I know the projections and the evaluation says with Bill Lazor, this is going to just turn on its head and go in the right direction. But Trubisky might be too broken. He might need time on the bench to sort everything out and get comfortable in a system like Bill Lazor's. Even though they weren't running his stuff, it didn't look like even if they did run his stuff, it would work. So my evaluation and my eyes were at a disagreement in week one of this season. And then Nick Foles got hurt, and they came out of the bye, and Mitchell Trubisky was set to start, and news came out that, wait, Bill Lazor's going to be calling the plays. So again, I tuned in, being a Packer fan, not wanting anything good to happen to the Bears. I tuned in to see the Packers play the Bears, and nothing looked different. It was the same old, same old. It was another day in the life of Mitchell Trubisky, and I did not see the elements of Bill Lazor's offense, and I wondered if this was ever going to be the case, because now we have a play caller calling somebody else's plays. But then the strangest thing happened, because when they played Detroit, the elements of Bill Lazor's offense started pushing into the forefront. And I immediately went, this is going to happen. The ball came out quick. The decisions were fairly decisive. And Mitchell Trubisky actually looked fairly clean in his mechanics and his footwork in the pocket because he didn't have it very long. He started to look somewhat confident on a field, and when's the last time you can say that about Mitchell Trubisky? I thought I saw the change. So you can look back and see what we said on Twitter, and you can see that we bet Chicago to beat Houston outright, because if that change was truly happening, Chicago, the arrow was pointing up. After seeing the Texans game, Chicago, the arrow is pointing way up. Nagy's hands are off the steering wheel. This is Bill Lazor's offense now. Everything that was in the playbook that he had put in there is being called in high rotation. And this is every bit as big of a change as you saw with the Titans last year when Tannehill took over versus the Chargers. And the Titans took off after that change. The quarterback didn't change this time. The offense changed around him. But it's going to have the same result. And Chicago right now is a dangerous, dangerous team. And I'm far from the only one who saw this change. JT O'Sullivan did a game tape breaking down the Texans. Dan Orlovsky commented about how the Bears are finally using Trubisky right. But what they didn't see or don't see or haven't mentioned that we're bringing to your forefront is this is what happens when the marriage of a quarterback with limited tools is put with the offensive coordinator who fits what he does. And that's exactly what Bill Lazor is. Dan Orlovsky, love his work, but he made a sloppy, lazy take saying, well, it was the Houston Texans and the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions played the Packers the next week, and the Packers offense did very little different than the Chicago Bears did. The Packers are one of the best offenses in the game. Chicago did the same thing to Detroit. It isn't the opponent at all. It is 100% Bill Lazor taking over this offense. Because we are about to enter into an era that people aren't aware of. The quarterback talent in this league is billowing up. There is a lot of it. And there are so many schemes at the disposal of offensive coordinators to limit different weaknesses that you are about to see what I'm calling the Tannehill phenomenon league-wide. And this is where quarterbacks who look broken in one location, in the wrong system, leave that team, end up somewhere else, and the arrow goes straight up. This is something that should weigh on the minds of every general manager in this league because quarterbacks are still very valuable. The elite ones. Because the elite ones are elite, and God only made so many of them. And they are going to succeed almost anywhere. But if you don't have one of the elite ones, your goal is to get one of the ones who looks bad or one who looks okay at the best value you possibly can, and then marry them to the right offensive system that will maximize the efficiency in their talents. This means that the value of quarterbacks league-wide should plummet. Not the elite quarterbacks, because they take over games, they win games by themselves, they create on an incredibly high level. But any quarterback who you have to bend your system to get high efficiency numbers out of, their value should drop. Because there's a lot of them now. There's more than there has ever been. There are more systems at the disposal of offensive coordinators than there's ever been. And if you take a quarterback in the draft like Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, or Kyle Trask, and you put them in the wrong circumstance, they're going to be every bit as bad as Trubisky looks right now, or before Bill Lazor. They're going to look every bit as bad as Sam Darnold looks right now, and they're going to get as lost as Carson Wentz is today. It is no longer good enough to evaluate how good a quarterback is. Unless they hit that threshold of being an elite talent, it's more important who your offensive coordinator is for the talents of your quarterback. So Chicago, the pearly gates have opened, and inside is a paradise of efficient football. It is at your doorstep, and all you have to do is stay the course. Handcuff Bill Lazor to Mitchell Trubisky. Extend Mitchell Trubisky on the best deal you can get him on for as long as possible. Keep Allen Robinson and use all the resources you have to continue to load that defense and build the offensive line. And what you'll see is a high-level efficient offense because your quarterback with Bill Lazor is that offense. And if you think efficient football is boring, go look at the Tennessee Titans who went to the AFC Championship game last year. Look at the Cleveland Browns, who are 9-4, despite having a 5-man defense and 6 lunch pail guys out there most games. Your defense is better than that. And if you can pair that efficient offense with Pagano's defense and the weapons you have on that side of the ball, you're going to win a lot of games. Winning's fun. It may be a boring offense, it may be a simple offense, but you're going to win a lot of games. Does this mean that Mitchell Trubisky is all of a sudden a good quarterback? No. He hasn't changed one bit. But the scheme fits who he is. And that's more important than anything else. Mitchell Trubisky is a pretty average. He's the third quarterback in his draft class. He's way behind Watson, way, way behind Mahomes. But you can still win a lot of games with him. And until you find Mahomes, or you get your Watson, or you get your Aaron Rodgers, or you get one of the elite quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, you're not going to have a better opportunity in front of you than you have right here with the right offensive coordinator and a quarterback whose tools fit his system. And to think you went 3 years and almost 4 full years with Mitchell Trubisky in your town, and you didn't have the slightest clue. Frankly, right now, I don't know if you still see it. And if you don't, and you let Mitchell Trubisky walk out that door, or you fire Nagy and lose Bill Lazor with him, because the grass is greener on the other side, you may pay for this dearly. Mitchell Trubisky is the next Ryan Tannehill. Don't be late to it. If you play Dynasty, if you play fantasy football, keep this in the back of your mind. Because if Trubisky and Lazor stay in Chicago beyond this year, you're buying Bears. You're buying Bears. Up and down the board, you are buying Bears. And buckle up, Bears fans, because you started 5-1. And if the chips fall the right way, you're going to close 4-0, head to the playoffs, and be a team that nobody wants to play now that your quarterback and your offensive coordinator are on the same page. As always, love you guys. We need you. Stay strong, and we'll see you on the other side.